안녕하세요. 방크에서 활동하는 박지은 연구원입니다. 한글은 600년의 역사를 가진 우리나라 고유의 문자인데요. 한글에 대해 잘 모르는 분도 많고 또 잘못된 정보를 접한 분도 꽤 있더라고요. 사이버 외교사절 딴 방크의 일원으로서 제가 한글에 대한 올바른 정보를 전달해 드릴게요. 한글은 조선 4대 왕인 세종대왕이 1443년에 창제한 글자예요. 한글은 자음과 모음으로 구성되어 있는데요. 자음은 입술, 이, 목구멍과 같이 발음기관의 모양이나 그 움직임을 본떠 만들었고요. 모음은 하늘, 땅, 사람을 본떠 만들었답니다. 한글의 창제 원리와 사용법을 써놓은 훈민정음 해례본은 1962년 대한민국 국보로 지정되었고 1997년 유네스코 세계기록유산으로 등재되었습니다. 창적이고 과학적이며 아름다운 문자인 한글, 한국인의 위대한 문화유산입니다. 한국 바로 알리기, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
President Lee Jae Myung embarks on his back-to-back summits with the U.S. and Japan on Saturday. He'll be seeking to advance Korea-Japan cooperation in security and economic areas and discuss efforts for alliance modernization with the Trump administration. And according to the president's office, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun has made it to the U.S. earlier to fine-tune the Trump summit agenda items for the coming week. The South Korean government has unveiled a 5-year economic development blueprint to realize what it calls a super innovation economy through artificial intelligence. President Lee Jae Myung sets off tomorrow on consecutive trips to Japan and the U.S. Ahead of the president's departure, National Security Advisor Lee Sung-lak today briefed reporters on the key agenda items and focus of each visit. Our President's Office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
Back-to-back summits with South Korea's key partners. President Lee Jae Myung heads to his first stop, Japan, on Saturday. So, what will be on the agenda? National Security Advisor Lee Sung-lak told reporters on Friday that the two leaders will address shared challenges and discuss practical ways to cooperate. Trade uncertainties triggered by the Trump administration and North Korea's nuclear threats could also be on the agenda. But the summit itself holds great significance.
The two leaders agreed in June to swiftly resume frequent leader-level diplomacy. We hope President Lee's visit to Japan will further deepen the personal bonds and trust between them.
Lee says this could also create a virtuous cycle to discuss thornier issues such as historical disputes. As for President Lee's first summit with U.S. President Donald Trump, the top security advisor called it a meeting with challenges. He outlined 3 goals: stabilizing Seoul and Washington's economic and trade partnership under last month's framework agreement, modernizing the alliance, and exploring new ways of cooperation. On trade, details of South Korea's investment pledge within the framework are expected to be nailed down.
Investment will likely be discussed further at the South Korea-U.S. summit. Both sides are aware of this, and we've already proposed a range. I don't expect much difficulty in this. I think the upcoming summit will produce a mutually beneficial investment package.
On security, we emphasized modernizing the South Korea-U.S. alliance by further reinforcing their joint defense posture. Washington could also press Seoul to boost defense spending, while the two presidents may discuss resuming dialogue with North Korea. And when it comes to fresh areas of cooperation, nuclear energy, shipbuilding, AI, and semiconductors are expected to be on the table. With President Lee describing trilateral cooperation among South Korea, the U.S., and Japan as the axis of diplomacy, the presidential office says Seoul is ready to show its commitment to working more closely with the two, which share the values of freedom and democracy. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
And South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun arrived in Washington, D.C., departing early. Now, Cho is likely to conduct a final review for the summit agenda with his U.S. counterpart, Marco Rubio. Our Chae-Young has more.
South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun arrived in Washington, D.C. on Friday in preparation for the Korea-U.S. summit next week. Cho is set to conduct a final on-site review for the summit agenda with U.S. officials, which is likely to include U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Cho is revisiting the U.S. about 3 weeks after having a summit with Rubio at the end of last month. Cho is skipping the planned Korea-Japan summit in Tokyo scheduled for Saturday, as it is unusual for a foreign minister to forego a summit, especially one marking the president's first trip to Japan. Cho's early trip to the U.S. has fueled speculation of last-minute complications, such as emergency trade or security issues. But the presidential office said on Friday that there was, quote-unquote, nothing sudden about the foreign minister's early departure for the U.S., with spokesperson Kang Yoo-jung explaining during a briefing on Friday that it is to ensure more thorough and meticulous preparations. President Lee Jae Myung is scheduled to meet U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House in Washington, D.C. for the first time since his inauguration on Monday local time. Chae-Young, Arirang News.
Former National Assembly Speaker Park Byung-seok has been tapped to head a special delegation to China. According to President spokesperson Kang Yoo-jung on this Friday, the four-member team will be made up of Bach and ruling Democratic Party lawmakers Kim Tae-yeon and Park Jung, as well as Lee Jae Myung, director of the East Asian Culture Center. During their four-day visit starting this Sunday, the envoys will meet with senior Chinese officials, including Zhao Leji, chairman of the National People's Congress Standing Committee, as well as Foreign Minister Wang Yi. They'll deliver a presidential message on advancing ties under the two countries' strategic cooperative partnership. Now, this marks the 12th and final group of special envoys dispatched by the Lee administration since taking office. The Lee Jae Myung administration has laid out its economic growth strategy for the next 5 years. Now, the centerpiece is artificial intelligence. We have two-part coverage of this strategy today, and our correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
At least 60 times is how often AI was mentioned on Friday as 5 of the nation's top economy-related ministers unveiled a new economic roadmap for the Lee Jae Myung administration. The mission, become a top 3 global AI power, raise the potential growth rate to 3% and rank among the world's top 5 nations.
Our past success stories were written in an era of being a follower economy. Now, our competitors are the top 10 advanced nations. To win, we must transform all our national systems, designed for a follower economy, into a model for a super innovative, leading economy.
To fuel this vision, a national growth fund of over 100 trillion won, or roughly $75 billion will be established, comprised of a total of 30 projects. 15 are related to fostering AI capacity in what the government calls the AI Great Transformation. The 15 flagship projects are put into 3 categories. Physical AI, with 7 projects, focuses on merging AI with South Korea's strong manufacturing base to strengthen robotics and auto industries, among others. Public sector AI, with 3 projects, involves integrating AI into government services to improve efficiency for areas such as welfare, employment, and tax administration. Foundational AI initiatives, with 5 projects aimed at creating an underlying ecosystem for AI to flourish, with talent cultivation and AI education accessible to earlier ages and all citizens. To execute this, each ministry has a role. The Minister of Science and ICT has outlined plans for an AI highway, securing over 50,000 advanced GPUs by 2030 and developing proprietary Korean AI models to ensure digital sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups has pledged to reignite the investment scene.
We will make the recovery of the contracted venture investment ecosystem our top priority and expand the venture investment market to over 40 trillion won annually by 2030, more than 3 times its size in 2024.
The strategy extends across the board, with the Agriculture Ministry set to integrate AI into farming and the Industry Ministry supporting the new high-tech manufacturing projects. Meanwhile, the government hopes this innovation-led approach will secure long-term growth, but it remains focused on the present as well. It forecasts a modest 0.9% expansion this year before rising to 1.8% next year. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Staying with South Korea's growth strategy, our Moon Soo now delves into details of this development plan for some of the key industries.
We will select 30 leading projects in AI-driven transformations and the super innovation economy and immediately begin preparations, starting from the second half of this year.
These pivotal technology-driven initiatives directly propel South Korea's ambitions for technology-led growth. Central to this vision of a super innovation economy is a concentrated effort in advanced materials and components. A key focus is on silicon carbide semiconductors. Currently heavily reliant on imports, the Korean government has set ambitious targets for SiC power semiconductors. It aims to raise self-sufficiency from 10% to 20% and increase domestic production from below 5% to 10% by 2030. Beyond these, Korea is also pushing for the localization of LNG cargo tank technology, a critical component of LNG carriers that currently account for over half of shipbuilding revenue, with about 5% of the vessel cost being paid to overseas companies as technology fees. Significant efforts are also to be directed towards climate change and future energy response. These include securing core technologies for next-generation solar cells and promoting solar glass. Regarding small molecule reactors, technology development projects are underway to obtain standard design approvals by 2028. Harnessing the global success of the Korean wave, the government is intensifying support for K-wave industries across the bio, content, beauty, and food sectors. For K-content, including games and webtoons, AI integration will span the entire cycle from planning to distribution to boost exports from $13.2 billion in 2022 to $25 billion by 2030. In the beauty industry, which ranked third globally in exports last year, the goal is to cultivate one customized K-beauty integrated cluster to propel it to become one of the top 2 global leaders. The government is poised to fundamentally redirect capital flows, which have been overly concentrated in real estate, towards productive sectors like corporate investment. This move aims to address the chronic undervaluation of the domestic stock market that has resulted in the Korea premium. The government has also unveiled measures to strengthen the livelihoods of small businesses and the self-employed. 문지영, Arirang News.
Parliament has passed all 3 bills related to media reform, ushering in a new era of governance of public broadcasters. Our An Sung-jin has the details.
A bill to amend the Korea Educational Broadcasting System Act was passed during the National Assembly plenary session on Friday. The reform, that's aimed at increasing the number of directors for EBS from 9 to 13, also includes diversifying the personnel who can recommend director candidates. The filibuster on this revision, which was brought by the main opposition People Power Party to block the bill's passage, ended on Friday morning and was followed by a vote immediately. The People Power Party boycotted the vote. With 179 votes in favor and 1 against among 180 members present, the National Assembly voted to pass the amendment. The PPP had argued that the revision would mean control over the role of public broadcasting, while the Democratic Party had claimed that it would ensure the fairness of EBS's governance. This means that all 3 media reform bills, including revisions to the Broadcasting Act and Foundation for Broadcast Culture Act, to amend the legislation on public broadcasters, key to the current Lee Jae Myung administration's media reform agenda, have been passed. All 3 bills were previously vetoed by former President Yoon Suk-yeol. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
The People Power Party's leadership race ended without a winner on Friday, sending the top 2 candidates into a runoff. Reporting from the convention hall in Cheongju, where the race took place, our Moon Hae-ryun brings us the story.
Waves of red swept through the convention hall on Friday, but no single candidate emerged victorious in the People Power Party's leadership election. No contender was able to win a majority of votes, meaning the race now heads to a runoff between the top 2 candidates, Moon-soo and Jang Dong-hyeok.
With the votes failing to produce a decisive winner, all eyes are now on the top 2 contestants to see who can secure broader support and steer the party forward.
Both candidates belong to the anti-impeachment faction of the PPP, which opposed the impeachment of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, while the other 2 candidates were pro-impeachment. However, both Kim and Chang emphasized the importance of unity in their speeches following the announcement.
At a time as serious as this, can we afford to be divided among ourselves? Let us stand together for our party and firmly defend South Korea's free democracy in this time of crisis.
Everyone, please choose the future. Choose innovation. Choose a united People Power Party.
A televised debate between the finalists is set for the following day on Saturday. Voting will then take place through a mix of mobile ballots and public opinion surveys through Sunday and Monday before the final outcome is revealed on Tuesday. The runoff underscores the party's internal division as no single figure has yet been able to command a broad consensus. The next leader will be tasked with rallying the base, rebuilding trust among voters, and preparing the opposition party for local elections next June. Meanwhile, the PPP also unveiled new appointments to its leadership team. 4 additional members have been elected to the party's Supreme Council: Kim Min-soo, Kim Jae-won, Shin Dong-hyeok, and Yang Hyang-ja, while Woo Jae-jun was named Youth Supreme Council member, a post reserved for leaders under the age of 45. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
As we've been reporting this month, Korea marks its 80th anniversary of liberation from Japanese colonial rule. And in light of this occasion, the National Archives of Korea is opening a special showcase tomorrow that walks us through the years since then. Our Shin Ha-young has this report.
80 years ago, the light of independence broke through the darkness. Since then, Korea has risen from the ashes, achieving rapid growth, democracy, and a global cultural influence. To celebrate the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule, the National Archives of Korea is hosting a special exhibition, A Journey of Light Through 80 Years of History.
The special exhibition here at Gwanghwamun Square features a structure of 80 pillars symbolizing Korea's 80 years since liberation, with LED displays showing the nation's resilience and achievements.
At the start of the exhibition, in the prologue section, visitors can hear a Korean language broadcast from Voice of America on the morning of August 15, 1945, before the Japanese emperor's surrender, delivering the sound of liberation.
Bringing to you in the various languages the message of President Truman to the effect that Japan has accepted the Allied terms of unconditional surrender. Here now to our listeners in Korea.
조선 동포 여러분, 일본은 포츠담 선언 조건을 완전히 접수하였습니다.
Under the title Now Our Nation, the first part of the exhibition shows how the people founded the Korean government and features a replica of the Republic of Korea's first constitution. In the second part, Divided Destiny, One Dream, visitors can for the first time hear 1950 interviews conducted by a member of the UN Commission on Korea with refugees at a camp in Kimhae following the outbreak of the Korean War. With 3 additional parts, the exhibition also highlights Korea's journey from industrialization and democratization to the global impact of its culture.
The exhibition lets people experience Korea's path of industrialization and democratization through records. We hope Koreans overseas and people worldwide will also join in sharing these achievements.
The special exhibition runs from Saturday through the end of August, and since it is held outdoors, visiting hours are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., so visitors can avoid the heat. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
It's Friday, which means it's a time for arts and culture. We have our culture correspondent, Park Konu, here in the studio. Welcome, Konu.
Great to be here, Tammy.
So, Konu, you lead us tonight.
All right, so I'm so thrilled to bring you the exclusive interview with K-pop Demon Hunters director, Maggie Kang.
Right.
So I'm sure you already know who she is. She's also known as so popular because she also participated in animated films such as Shrek and also Kung Fu Panda. And meeting her in person, I got to listen to a lot of details and got to know how much effort was actually put into this film. And actually, while I'm pretty sure there are just, 3 people around the world that's left that haven't seen the movie yet, let's first take a look at my interview spotlighting her journey and even a sneak peek of what's next. Homecoming Golden. After shaking the world with K-pop Demon Hunters, director Maggie Kang has returned to Korea, the home of K-pop.
Well, every time I come to Seoul, I feel like I'm home. So when the plane touches down, I just think to myself, oh, I'm home now.
Having spent lots of summers in Seoul as a young girl, Kang says her back-and-forth life between Korea and abroad became a deep source of inspiration.
All the summers I spent in Seoul, I was here. I was experiencing it firsthand. And that memory just kind of stays with you. And that paired with all the kind of pop culture and references that I learned from Western culture.
Back then, her love for K-pop was often dismissed by her friends abroad. But now she feels a massive shift to how K-culture is embraced in the West, making her proud to be a Korean.
Well, when I was a little bit more insecure, I hid it from people. But the older I got, I knew that I've always just had this like strong Korean pride. And then to see Korean culture, now it's kind of unavoidable. You go to a fast food restaurant and there's like a gochujang flavor of chicken wings, completely accepted into mainstream.
Seeing the rise of K-pop's popularity, Kang says she wanted the film to reflect that connection with fans, not tied to just one idol group.
And so it is really a mix. You know, when they see Huntrix, they think, I'm a fan of this group, and so for me, Huntrix is this group. I just wanted to make a film for every K-pop fan to enjoy in their own way.
The movie took around 7 years to make, leaving a question. How does she manage to stay relevant and trendy?
It's really about the story and really staying true to what the audience is going to connect with. From the very beginning, that was really set. It was all a culmination of everybody's like favorite things.
With global fans still excited about the movie, Kang gave us a sneak peek of a potential sequel.
There's a lot of ideas that didn't make it in. So I would love to feature new demons, you know, that are different visually and different types of music. And I think there's a lot of backstories that we can flesh out and give the fans a little bit, you know, more information on.
Can you give us a message for all the Rumis outside watching that are struggling for finding their dreams and trying to pursue their career that they want?
Stay true to yourself, and if you feel scared, you're probably doing something right. Once you create any work of art or, you know, put anything out there that's a part of yourself, that's what people want to see. That's what people connect to the most.
At the end of the day, Kang stressed the film carries one true message: don't be scared of who you are. Echoing the lyrics of K-pop Demon Hunter's theme song, Golden. I'm done hiding. Now I'm shining like I'm born to be.
Great interview, Konu. I'm sure you had more behind-the-scenes stories that you couldn't include in your report. Tell us more.
There are tons of stories I want to tell you, but just to tell a few of you, during my one-on-one talk with her, she refers to all the scenes as her children, meaning they're all important and they were hard to make, every scene. And so she tells us what the scene she has put much effort into.
One of the scenes that I'm most proud of is the very opening scene where we see the old-time original hunters and we see Korean culture from, like, you know, the Joseon era to modern day. It's such a short moment, but for me, being someone who's Korean, it was just such an emotional feeling to like see our tradition just on screen.
She added that it took a long time to approve. Actually, it was the very last scene to be approved because the production team wanted to learn and put all the expertise they learned into it. And during her visit to Arirang to join our special show K-pop The Next Chapter, she also shared how much effort went into the final scene, especially in portraying traditional attire like the kat you're seeing on the screen right now. And one other interesting fact she revealed was about the main character, Rumi. She said her daughter was actually named after the character. And it doesn't stop there, as the voice acting and singing for the younger version of Rumi were also done by her daughter, Rumi.
I love the name Rumi. It sounds so special.
Yes.
But Konu, after she had an exclusive interview with you, she also had a press conference here in South Korea with other reporters. What did she have to say there?
Yeah, so the press conference happened today at around 2 p.m. But before I tell you more about this, I want to ask you a little question, Tommy. So these days, there's one track that I am listening to on and on. Can you guess?
Golden has to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew you would get it right away. But anyways, I wanted to dive deeper into this song, Golden, because as you probably know, Golden has topped several global charts, including the Billboard Hot 100. Amid the popularity, director Kang revealed a behind-the-scenes story of how the song was released, while saying it was actually the hardest song to create in order to serve many purposes.
Number one, it became kind of Rumis' I Want song, which is very traditional for any musical. And we also realized that we needed to set up the backstories of all of our characters. Musically, it felt like we needed the song to be kind of difficult to sing. Our movie is about the power of music, and whenever a singer hits a really high note, we get this feeling like butterflies. And I really wanted to feel that through the song.
So she added that the song was so hard, they had to go through 7 or 8 different versions before their team finally felt this is it.
I'm sure it took several times to make that song perfect in their way. Konu, thank you so much for the fun coverage tonight.
Thank you.
It's late August, but the whole country is still heating up. The heatwave warnings were strengthened in Seoul this morning, and heatwave warnings covered almost the whole country except Gangwon-do province. Although tomorrow is Cheoseo, when the heat is supposed to go away, it will continue to be hot this weekend, with daytime temperature rising to 34 degrees Celsius in Seoul. It feels even hotter than the actual readings across the country. Tomorrow, with nighttime heat continuing, Seoul, Busan, and Jeju will start off at 27 degrees. Highs will move up to around 33 to 36 degrees across the country. Next Monday, rain is expected in the Seoul metropolitan area and western parts of Gangwon-do province. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. Thanks for watching and good night.
Curious about Korea? And especially K-food? How familiar are you with Korean food? The sea on 3 sides, a mountainous terrain, and 4 distinct seasons. Thanks to these conditions, Korean cuisine bursts with diverse and unique flavors. Do you prefer sweet or spicy? A meat lover or a seafood connoisseur? Can't decide? There's got to be something here that you like. For Koreans, rice is foundational. It's a staple and the centerpiece to all meals in Korea. There's bibimbap, rice mixed with vegetables, gukbap, rice in hot soup, and kimbap is the demand around the world. For me, it's noodles over rice. Korea has amazing noodle dishes. chuy ramen, and cold naengmyeon to blow away the heat. A meat lover here, pork, beef, chicken, I like them all. Did you know that bulgogi is listed in the English dictionary? There's also the famous chimek, chicken and beer, which is the best combo for a night out with friends.
Surrounded by the sea on three sides, Korea has a great selection of seafood, from raw fish to piping hot seafood soups. It's mouth-watering just talking about it. The two pillars of Korean condiments, gochujang and soy sauce.
Ooh, what do you prefer?
Gochujang. I like anything made with gochujang. In general, Koreans love spicy food.
I prefer the soy sauce base. There's something about the salty and sweet that hits the right spot. I think even those who are trying Korean food for the first time will really like it.
But that's not all.
We can't leave out the street food. If you're in Korea, it's a must-try. They are both treats for your eyes and mouth.
How about it? Mouth-watering, right?
Korean food, you've got to try it. Discover a whole new world of flavors.
The Korean wave is drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with Korea's locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang. 도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 APEC은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 APEC 2025로 이어집니다.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyeon. Diplomacy in Northeast Asia is entering a critical moment. South Korean President Lee Jae Myung is beginning a series of high-stakes summits with a visit to Japan and notably before heading to Washington. The unusual order of these meetings is seen as a deliberate signal to allies and rivals alike. At the same time, his administration has accelerated its diplomatic reset, naming new ambassadors to both Tokyo and Washington. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ishiba's recent expression of remorse on the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II has raised expectations for progress in relations. Now, with U.S. trade pressures mounting and trilateral security cooperation on the table, tomorrow's Seoul-Tokyo summit carries weight far beyond bilateral relations. To help us break this down, we're joined by Patrick Cronin, Asia-Pacific Security Chair at the Hudson Institute. A big welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Chae-mi, Research Fellow at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start right away. Dr. Chae, President Lee Jae Myung has named new ambassadors to the U.S. and Japan just ahead of a series of bilateral summits with Washington and Tokyo, signaling full-scale preparation. What does this rapid reshuffling of his foreign policy team actually tell us? And is it about projecting stability and continuity to the world? Do you think so?
Well, to be honest, I think they came a bit late. The former ambassador to major countries had already returned to their post by mid-July, and the positions in both the U.S. and Japan were left. And also, you know that during that time, Japan held its upper house election, but left the Ishiba cabinet in a very fragile state. And meanwhile, important tariff negotiations were underway with the United States. Of course, the embassies were run by charged affairs, but having no ambassador in place for more than a month at such a critical time was, in my view, a significant loss for the nations. So I'm sure the government had its reasons, but this goes against the emphasis on national interest and pragmatism that Lee Jae Myung administration has been highlighting. In fact, there were even growing concerns that the summit might be held without ambassadors in place. So I think it's fortunate that the appointment has finally been made. One more thing, that what stands out in that both U.S. and Japan ambassadors are seasoned career diplomats. For example, Lee Hyuk, the former ambassador to Vietnam, who has now been named ambassador to Japan, has long been floated as a likely candidate since the start of the current administrations. When the government selects former diplomats for such posts, it typically suggests a preference for stable and predictable diplomacy. In the current international environment, where conditions can shift very quickly, this choice signals an intention to rely on experience and practical expertise to maintain consistency and steady management in foreign affairs.
Right. So even though it came a little bit late, it was definitely a very necessary move ahead of the summits. So we are expecting the Korea-Japan summit on August 23rd. It's quite unusual for a South Korean president to visit Japan before the U.S. Dr. Cronin, how should we read into this, and what message does this send to the broader international community?
Well, I think it's an accurate reflection that our geopolitical moment is quite disruptive and uncertain. And we have not only intensified competition among major powers, heightened technological competition, but the added uncertainty that the United States has thrown in by pressuring allies and others around the world on the trade rules and on tariffs. So I think these pressures, these geopolitical realities now heighten the importance of Japan-Korea relations. And we've seen this reflected, I think, both from pragmatism from the Democratic Party of Korea and Lee Jae Myung, but also from the LDP. And obviously, Prime Minister Ishiba is well prepared to keep advancing the bilateral relationship. I also think that this is a springboard for Lee Jae Myung's international diplomacy moment. He's had nearly 3 months now since the special election, and now he is embarking on some very significant diplomacy that will probably go from Japan to the United States to maybe the APEC summit that Korea will host in the end of October. And this period is a very formative moment for President Lee Jae Myung to shape the South Korean foreign policy under his lead.
Definitely a very critical moment as well. Now, ahead of the summit, we are aware that President Lee gave an interview to Japanese media saying he would respect the 2015 Comfort Women Agreement as a state-to-state promise. And at the same time, he stressed that sincere consolidation matters more than financial compensation, urging actually a genuine response from Tokyo. Dr. Che, what kind of diplomatic signal is he really sending here?
Well, above all, I think it's as a step aimed at dispelling Japan's concern about Lee Jae Myung's administrations. From the beginning, there had been worries in Japan that once Lee took office, his government might overturn existing agreements and adopt a strong anti-Japanese stance. But since the launch of administrations, President Lee Jae Myung has been consistently extending gestures to goodwill toward Japan, which has been received quite positively in Japan. On top of that, the recent pledge, the major prior to the visit to Japan to honor past agreements in the name of policy consistency is important. This message will reassure Japan that it can be indeed place its trust to South Korea, and more specifically the Lee administration itself. In the longer run, I think this will help strengthen the foundation of the trust between the two countries.
Right, so we are talking about unresolved historical issues between the two countries. And so President Lee's approach towards that has been described as a two-track strategy, separating forward-looking cooperation from historical disputes. But in practice, Dr. Cronin, can this strategy actually deliver some meaningful diplomatic results?
Well, I think we saw it delivering results even before Lee Jae Myung came to power. That is, the determination to look forward is very strong in both Tokyo and Seoul because the challenges are immense. I don't think the symbolism, though, is easily filled in with sort of tangible deliverables in the short term. I think instead we're going to see a focus on sort of quiet diplomacy in terms of coordination on very tough issues. How do you coordinate North Korea policy when you have Lee Jae Myung wanting to freeze nuclear weapons in North Korea and North Korea not even wanting to talk to anybody? So that's going to be a challenge. How do you deal with the United States when it's pressuring Korea and Japan on tariffs and on burden shifting and increasing defense burdens? How do you coordinate on China policy when both Korea and Japan want to stand up to China and yet not provoke China? These and other challenges are immense, and I think the coordination factor here has been elevated, and I think that's really the key here. We're not supposed to look for big new investment deals or even a trade agreement between Korea and Japan in the short term, but rather a continuation of closer coordination on key security, economic, and technology issues, and that's very significant in itself.
Right, so maintaining the current level of coordination between the two countries would be even very meaningful as it. Now, Prime Minister Ishiba actually used his August 15th address, marking the 80th year since the end of World War II, to speak about, quote, remorse, or some call it regret, the first Japanese Prime Minister in 13 years to do so. So how might Japan's current domestic political climate actually shape the prospects for improving ties with Korea, Dr. Che?
Well, at the ceremony, Prime Minister Ishiba used expressions such as "we must deeply ingrain in our hearts with the lessons and reflection from the war, and also we will carry forward the painful memories of the war and the pledge of never again, and advance toward the last peace," like that. It was, as you said, it was the first time in 13 years that the word remorse had been used in that context. But compared with the previous statements, like the 70th anniversary statement, which is known as the Abe statement, this is a bit different in nature. I mean, the statement of that kind is something formally adopted by the cabinet, which means it carries the full weight of the government policy. But in Prime Minister Ishiba's case, he reportedly wanted to issue such a cabinet-approved statement, but faced strong opposition from within the LDP. So as a result, he started on delivering a personal message instead. His use of remorse at the August 15 memorial should be viewed in that light, as part of his personal initiative. The fact that he pushed ahead despite significant internal resistance suggests that this really reflects one's strong convictions. That said, it would be a mistake to interpret that this is representing the broader political climate changes in Japan or the mainstream positions of the ruling party. Even if it was framed as the Prime Minister's personal message, with many within the LDP remained uncomfortable with such a language being delivered from the office of the Prime Minister. So while there is a broad consensus in Japan on improving relations with South Korea, but when it comes to history issues, especially apology and the expression of remorse, it remains a highly divisive and sensitive and controversial issues, I think.
Right, of course. It would definitely be a very sensitive issue in and out of the country. So we'll have to keep watching on the developments. But let's circle back again to the Korea-Japan summit, upcoming summit. So since the two leaders agreed to restart shuttle diplomacy, Dr. Cronin, what kind of issues are we expecting to make agenda this time?
Well, I think we have to start with coordination on trade issues. Where can Korea and Japan cooperate further, both to keep the United States on side and happy enough, but at the same time mitigate the sort of detrimental effects of tariffs and the challenges to the economies and to the technology policies of Korea and Japan. And I think issues on shipbuilding, on semiconductor chips, on energy are all critical. I think you could look at very specific subset issues like nuclear energy. How are we going to run these increasingly AI-driven data centers without nuclear power? And that raises lots of other questions for both Korea and Japan and for the region. Second issue is really North Korea policy. Just getting assurance. I think Prime Minister Ishiba will want the assurance of Lee Jae Myung that there will continue to be very close coordination on whatever diplomacy happens. And of course, Lee Jae Myung, when he goes to the White House on Monday, he's going to want assurances from President Trump that the United States is also coordinating very closely with Seoul on any outreach to Kim Jong-un. So the North Korean coordination policy is very important. And then finally, just the wider global agenda is critical here. When you think about China policy or Russia, when you think about reaching out to India, the global South, there's no shortage of issues here for possible cooperation, but definitely the need for continued close coordination.
Right, so a lot of issues to talk about, but mostly trade and cooperation in terms of North Korea issues, as well as trilateral cooperation with the U.S. would be very important. Now, speaking of which, since the summit comes just before the South Korea-U.S. summit, many see it as a laying groundwork for highlighting trilateral cooperation among Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. Dr. Cronin, can the strategy of emphasizing trilateral ties really translate into tangible results at the upcoming sit-down with President Trump?
Well, again, I don't think President Trump likes to deal with necessarily tangibles as much as broad ideas and vision setting. Nonetheless, critically important that this goes well. Both of these summits need to go well because all three countries need each other for maintaining deterrence in the region, for leverage against potential adversaries like North Korea, for dealing with China. And I think here there is a real opportunity for Lee Jae Myung to ensure that whatever is meant by alliance modernization doesn't come at the expense of the U.S.-Japan alliance or Japan's interests. So we need to make sure that alliance modernization works for all three of these countries. And this alliance modernization in many ways is a euphemism for America shifting burdens onto its allies to take more responsibility, to shoulder more costs. And how we do that, what's the command structure coming out of these summits? Not necessarily the next week, but in the coming months, what will be the command structure that's being recommended? Because this really will affect Korean security, Japanese security, regional security. So the coordination here, again, I have to emphasize just how important that is. And I hope that President Trump will be on good behavior and try to advance these things sincerely, because I think all three countries need to do that.
Right, it's a very important moment for all three parties. Now, finally, before we let you go, all this together, these back-to-back South Korea-Japan and South Korea-U.S. summits, these could reshape the diplomatic landscape of Northeast Asia. So looking on the long term, Dr. Che, how do you see the future of Korea-Japan relations and the evolution of the trilateral cooperations with the U.S.?
Well, President Lee Jae Myung's visit to U.S. and Japan will spark a range of discussion covering security, the economy, culture, and people-to-people exchange, and science, technology, and more. So, of course, it's impossible to guarantee that no conflicts or disagreement will arise in the future between the countries. But the leaders of South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. will remain aware of challenges and they committed to managing them. I'm optimistic about the developments of Korea-Japan relation and also U.S.-Japan relations. This may be the positive outlook as further supported by the high levels of mutual goodwill and also the preferences to each other among the peoples of the three countries.
Mm-hmm. What about Dr. Cronin? Do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I think the good news is that the leg of this trilateral relationship between Japan and Korea is growing stronger. And so we have more of an equilateral triangle rather than an isosceles triangle where the U.S.-Japan and U.S.-Korea relations were always very strong, but the Japan-Korea was weaker. That's the good news. The harsher sort of reading on what might be happening in the future, though, is exactly how is the system integrated both in the region and globally when the United States is somewhat retrenching, when China wants to grow its role, and where Japan and Korea want to preserve their influence going forward. And those are imponderables that will be watched very closely for years to come.
Indeed. So this summit could set the course for regional diplomacy well beyond this year, shaping the future of Korea-Japan ties and also trilateral security as well. But as for now, we'll have to conclude our discussion here at this point. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights tonight, Dr. Cronin.
Thank you.
And Dr. Che, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
TV is conducting an overseas TV viewer survey to provide you with a better global broadcast service. Share your valuable feedback on the Arirang TV website www.arirang.com or mobile application. Survey participants will be selected at random to receive special gifts. 2025 Arirang Overseas TV Viewers Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.